Good morning. The meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. The meeting is being held at the office of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North 3rd Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, and the time is 9:01. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Chairman Roussel, Commissioner Leone,
Here.
Commissioner Romick,
Here.
Acting Chairman Guidry,
Here.
Commissioner Frazier,
Here.
4 present and a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Now hear the approval of the minutes. I will defer those minutes at this time. We will now move to items to be considered.
Chandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today, we have a total of 37 change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 37. Staff requests approval of these change orders.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve all 37 change orders.
If there's no objection, no questions, hereby that motion is passed.
Chandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today, we have a total of 3 prior pending change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve all 3. Staff requests approval of the prior pending change orders.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve 3 prior pending change orders as reviewed by staff.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
Chandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today, we have a total of 7 tax sale cancellations, 6 in Cattle Parish and 1 in EBR. Staff requests approval of the tax sale cancellations.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve all 7 tax sale cancellations.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. At this time, the chair will make a motion to amend the following parishes for consideration of the approval of the 2024 tax roll: Acadia, Claiborne, Lincoln, Vermilion, West Carroll, West Felician, and Wynn. At this time, we would have consideration of the approval of the 2024 tax roll for the following parishes: Acadia, Vermilion, Claiborne, Webster, Franklin, West Carroll, Jackson, West Feliciana, Lincoln, and Wynn.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tanisha Malvo on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Staff has received the tax rolls for the previously mentioned 10 parishes. We have received their electronic rolls, which validated in our system. Their TC33s, millage recaps, and public service recaps all balanced. We also received the quietuses, affidavits, and their Louisiana Legislative Auditor's approval letter for their millages. Therefore, staff requests the approval of the 2024 tax rolls for Acadia, Claiborne, Franklin, Jackson, Lincoln, Vermilion, Webster, West Carroll, West Feliciana, and Wynn parishes.
At this time, is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, these items, at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the parishes mentioned in detail, as well as Ms. Malvo's representation, and move to approve all of the 2024 tax rolls.
Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, these items will pass. Thank you, Ms. Malvo.
Thank you.
At this time, we will move on to the appeals. At this time, we will have legal counsel. Mr. Drew, swear in. Yes.
Get that one.
Morning. If you'll be testifying in any of the appeals, if you're in the room and you have an appeal on the docket, I'm going to administer an oath to you. You know, to affirm the oath, state your name. I'll ask you to stand up. I'll administer the oath to all of you at one time. For Comstock, I can take you all at the end. All right. For those of you who are standing up, I'll have you raise your right hand. I'm going to administer an oath. I'll then indicate to you individually To affirm the oath, simply state "I do" and then state your name. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
I do, David Mejia.
Thank you.
I do, James Burchett.
Thank you.
I do, Bradley Gray. Darren Myers.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all may all have a seat now. One more, Chairman. Appraisers, if you will unmute and turn your cameras on, I'll administer an oath to you. And I'll indicate to you individually to affirm the oath. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Mark?
Mark Gillespie, I do.
Cody?
Cody Lowry, I do.
Paul?
Paul Bennett, I do.
Mike?
Mike Cater, I do.
Nicole?
Nicole Singley, I do.
Josh?
Joshua Laverne, I do.
Luke?
Luke Brewer, I do.
Thank you. Very good, Chairman. Chandrika can call. the
Thank you,
docket.
Mr. Drew. We'll now go ahead and hear the appeals.
All right, good morning. Can everyone use this time to silence their cell phones, please? Thank you. The first appeal we'll take up today is the appeal of Assessor L.G. Williams versus Jeffrey L. Beeker in the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23-221-73208.
Taxpayer, you have the floor.
I think it's an assessor appeal.
Okay,
Commissioner
then.
Goodrich, just,
All right.
if you give me 1 second. Good morning, this is David Mejia, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Just to confirm, this is the appeal for 726 Mandeville Street? Okay, thank you. This property is it's a multifamily property located in the Marigny. The quadrennial valuation landed it at 618,000. The value was reduced by the board review to 410,000. Subsequent to that, the tax commission valued it at 401, and our independent analysis landed it at 555,000. In preparation for this appeal, I was reviewing the documents as I normally would, and I came across a statement in the appeal form indicating there was a carriage house in the rear of the building. And the aerial also shows a carriage house. So we ordered a field inspection. The taxpayer's wife was gracious enough to allow our representatives in. We documented the house. It's a 2-story carriage house. Appeared to be rented, appeared to be occupied, maybe not rented, but occupied. It appeared to be living area from our standpoint. I then reviewed our values, and I felt like our value of 555 was probably still too high, even including the carriage house. So I am requesting a different value from our prayer. The breakdown was essentially the main dwelling is 2274 square foot. We valued that at 195 a square. The detached carriage house, we valued that at $70 a square. So that came out to a total of $515,900. Give you the breakdown on the land on that. So that would be land at 184,800 and improvements at 331,100 for a total of 515,900. That's including the detached carriage house.
All right, thank you, Mr. David.
Real quick before we move past that, real quick, could you give that breakdown again on, I want to make sure I got the land value correct?
Make sure I got that right. Get my glasses on again because it's old eyes. You're right. Good catch, Mr. Frazier. So the land was 122,600, improvements 393,300, total of 515,900.
Thank you for those corrections, Mr. David. At this time, we'll move over and hear from the taxpayer.
Thank you for having us here. We're here because there's a discrepancy, we believe, in the value of our property, and mainly because it has been valued as average, and really the condition is fair. So we believe that the valuation that was given by the Board of Review of $410,000 and the valuation of $401,000 given by the Louisiana Tax Commission's appraiser is more in line with what it should be, even though that they also assessed it, appraised it at as a average condition. So it could even be lower than that, but what we're asking for is for the Louisiana Tax Commission to uphold the Board of Review's valuation at $410,000. Let's see, based a lot on the condition of our property there, as we presented with our exhibits, there is termite damage, there is no insulation, it's all outlined out there, and I can go through that again if that's necessary. But I think you should have that all in there, a whole list of repairs that need to be done.
Yes, we do.
Okay, and some repairs that aren't included are like redoing electrical. There's some things like the lead remediation in the interior of the house is something that I wasn't able to get an estimate on because, as you know, in these old houses, it's like a can of worms. Once you open up a wall, you don't know what you're going to find. So that's another thing. Also, in terms of like resale value, the bathrooms, kitchens have not been updated since the 1960s. So anybody who's planning on buying this house would need to do all of that. So there's a lot of issues that any new buyer would do. And I think that the valuation is still way too high, based on what needs to be done on the house. And then I'm also they're also looking at the exhibits presented by the New Orleans Assessor's Office, looking at their comps. It looks to me like they had a value in mind of $620,000 or $618,000 in mind. And they looked at the comps that they presented were all from kind of the earliest period, dating from let's see, the earliest was August of 2021 up to August of 2022. And that market at that time was at the highest point. It was before we had like the insurances, like our insurance was doubled, and other issues were going, so that the interest rates were affecting that. So if they chose comps from later in the period, I think as the appraiser from the LTC did, they would find, on much lower values at that time. So we feel like the comps that they used were not representative. They weren't average. They were kind of based on the very earliest periods of these values. Looking at market data from that area, from July 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 2023, looking in like a 1 square mile radius, we found that the valuations were like $45 to $212 per square foot. Sorry, I apologize. The market data within 1 square mile of our home, dated from July 1st, 2022 and June 30th of 2023, had anywhere from $45 per square foot to $212 per square foot, with an average of $110 and a median of $109. And I think this market value is more more in line with the LTC's appraiser's value of our property that reflects a more fair market value. So I think, really the main points I'd like to put across are that our house is in fair condition, not average. So that's the way it should be appraised and not be appraised as in average condition. And based on the existing problems in the house and other situations, everything from termites to lead to mold and, all those issues. We had, damage from Ida. A lot of that has not been repaired. So there's a lot of issues there that would require updating, repair before any sale, and all of this would need to be disclosed for a sale, or certainly would show up in any inspection of the house. So those are kind of the reasons we believe that we would like to go with the appraisal that the Board of Review and LTC found in the valuation of our house, which is, about $100,000 less than their newest evaluation, which started at 618, gone down to 555, and now to 512. So that's what we're presenting here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jeffrey. We'll now hear from the Tax Commission. Mr. Palmer,
Hi, I just want to note I wasn't sworn in
just one,
at the
okay.
beginning.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Drew.
You'll raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning. I appraised the house at 401,000 with an improvement value of 278,400 and a land value of 122,600. I was notified about the carriage house earlier this week, and I did find a comparable. It is 908 St. Peter Street. It sold for 470,000 in December of 2022. After adjustments, it more or less came out around that value, but I do want to note that that would be a high end of value personally for me, just because of the location and the superior appeal. But it was an average fair condition. It did have termite problems similar to that of the subject property. For me, when I make adjustments for carriage houses, it's usually 15,000 to 25,000. So just to be on the safe side, since I didn't see this one, I probably would have given it a $20,000 adjustment across the board, which would have brought me to 421,000.
Is there any discussion by the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, just a question for Ms. Palmer. Just to confirm, Ms. Palmer, the carriage house, I think on St. Peter, you felt comparable square footage, comparable condition, right? Average fare, much like the taxpayer's property in your assessment?
I was not able to see the carriage house. I did find some pictures on Zillow, and it did look like it was an average fair condition. Yes, maybe even fair from the exterior.
Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Is there any other questions by the commissioners? At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to have a total appraisal or total value of 457,000. There wasn't a common comp from both the LTC and assessor's office. That average of those two, pretty tight, came in at an average of 456,500. So that's my proposal. That would be land at 122,600, improvements at 334,400.
Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll take up the appeal of Bradley K. Dudd versus Assessor L.G. Williams in the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23221-77041.
Good morning. Good morning. I live at 1515 South Carrollton Avenue. And when I got my appraisal, it was up almost 35% 1 year. My home, in addition to the two homes to the left of my house were all built the same year, 1902, by the same man. And I find it quite remarkable that one of the houses had a full gut renovation and its valuation went down and mine went up. So I thought a fair appraisal would be to average this per square foot of 3 houses built by the same man, the same year, would be a fair equity valuation for an assessment. In terms of the assessment that I got from the appraiser, I'm not at odds with that, but in order for me to sell that house, I would have to put a new roof on it, paint the house. It has termite damage. It has knob and tube, which would have to be replaced. And it also has a 19-year-old air conditioning system. So I'm way in with excess of probably $200,000 worth of repairs that would have to be done to the house in order to sell it at a fair market value. My next door neighbor did a full gut renovation and the house is almost valued a little over half of what my house is valued at. So I don't understand, how that can be, but with homeowners insurance and taxes costing me $2,000 a month, it's just the cost is getting outrageous. As a retiree, I live on a fixed income.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. David from the Orleans Parish.
Good morning, once again, David Mejia, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. The property, 1515 South Carrollton, was valued through the quadrennial at $760,400. The Board of Review affirmed the value. Subsequent appraisals completed by the Tax Commission was $850,000, and we had an independent value of $829,000. All subsequent values were higher. I reviewed it. I was also in the eights as well in my independent review and preparation for this hearing. The only thing I can say, I did hear the taxpayer mention some of the neighboring properties. So I did look that up as a courtesy, and the one property at 1521, that is we have that coded as a multifamily. But that would be the reason why the valuation is different. So we can order a field inspection on that to confirm that if that is not a multifamily and try to get that value corrected. Subsequent to that, 1501 was valued at 264 a square foot. 1527 is 191, which looked like it was much inferior to his. And then the 1531 was at 205. So you got 867, 763, all pretty tight ranges at his 239.57. So the only one that seemed out of line in review of these was the one that I mentioned that we have coded as a multifamily, which would sell for significantly less if it were a multifamily. So with that being said, we were just requesting that the board, the commission would uphold the original value of the $760,400, as that is the lower value of all subsequent valuations completed.
Okay,
Can I make a comment?
go ahead, sir.
My house was valued at $181.29 a square foot. 1521, which has had a full gut renovation, everything, new kitchens, new bathrooms, everything, was valued at $83.68 a square foot. 1527, which is a single family home and has never been a dual dwelling. The man who you're talking about had a double behind his house that he had, and I think y'all settled with him.
Please direct your statements to us. Okay, sir?
and-
Thank you.
That house is valued at $124 a square foot. So I'm comparing 3 houses built by the same man, the same year. Not the other 2 on each end of it, of the block, because they're not comparables, because they're not, these other 3 houses that I'm talking about are almost identical, except for the one that had the full gut renovation. They added a 3rd floor and also to the back of the house, which so makes it considerably bigger. So it's technically less per square than $83 a square foot. So I just averaged to 3 to get what I felt was a fair equity of, mine was the only house in the whole block that went up in value. Others went down.
Okay, thank you, sir. This time we'll hear from the Tax Commission, Mr. Luke.
Good morning. Luke Brewer with Louisiana Tax Commission. I did a fee simple appraisal on 1515 South Carrollton Avenue, did a full interior inspection. Based on the interior inspection, I believe the condition rating to be average to very good. There was some deferred maintenance items noted, like exterior wood rot, some settlement cracks, old water damage from the ceiling, which is further supports my condition rating between average to very good, because there have been some updates like the master bathroom. I used the comparable sales approach to develop an opinion of market value. All three of my comparable sales were within 0.3 miles of the subject, also within the year prior to the assessment date of 1/1/2023. After adjustments, my value range indicated is between 758,900 to 972,000. My opinion of fair market value, based on the comparable sales approach, is 850,000, with the undisputed land value being 185,000 and the improvement value being 665,000.
Thank you, Mr. Luke. Mr.
Yes,
Davis,
sir.
is there anything else you would like to add from the Orleans Parish assessor?
No, just to go over that once again, the value of the 1521, we have that coded as a multifamily. If that's incorrect, we will open, I'll look into that, but that's the discrepancy in the value in that. So that's why it's much lower. It is coded as a multifamily unit. And that's really the discrepancy. If that's what he's hanging his hat on,
No, no,
that's the issue.
the other house too.
Well, there's, 1531, I mean, we have that valued at 867,000. And so we go down this road a lot where we find the lowest comps, but the one right over there to 867, we don't mention that one. That one's not comparable.
No, I'm comparing the three houses that are just alike.
That's what they're not just alike if one's coded as a multifamily.
Well, it's not.
Okay.
That's the reason for that value difference.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Is there any questions by the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. So, Mr. Mejia, if in fact that neighboring property is a single family residence, which way are you saying that, what does that do if you go back and evaluate that? What does it do to the amount that you would be asking for, if anything?
The neighboring property would be grossly undervalued if it is a single family. It would, so his value would have to be adjusted upwards.
So that
Considerably.
taxpayer's value would have to go up.
Yes. Considerably.
How much?
Oh, I don't, it's not part of this hearing.
I can honestly, from my conversations through the appeal process, I could never get an explanation on the metrics of how they came up with the value of my house.
So, Mr. Mejia, going back to that neighboring property, since you just went through the quadricentennial, with that adjustment, looking at equity across those neighboring properties, when would that adjustment potentially occur?
We would open that up as soon as we get back. We would order a field inspection, and if anyone's listening at the office, they can start that now. It's coded as a multifamily unit, and if it's a single family, we'll research it and we'll make the appropriate adjustments on that.
Is 1531 also considered a double also?
We have that as a single family
Okay,
at
and that's
$800.
$128 a
100,
square foot.
it's also 4,000, over to 4,000 square foot. So economy of scale says the bigger it gets, smaller it drops. It's valued at 867,900.
It's twice the size of my house.
Any other questions by the commissioners? At this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I call a motion to accept the assessor's valuation of $760,400 total, land value $185,000, improvements $575,400, total of $760,400.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
Thank you.
Next, we'll take up the appeal of James A. Frechette versus Assessor L.G. Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23221-76021. Mr. James, you can go first.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, and good morning. My name is James Frechette. I'm the owner of property 4425 and 4427 Loyola Avenue. I'm requesting a full value of land and property at $501,000 for that property. Part of the reason for that, both the Orleans Parish as well as the Tax Commission assessors, I believe, did not get a good look at the condition of the property. It is rated at both excellent for the Tax Commission's appraiser and I believe very good for the Orleans Parish assessors. There are many issues, much like you've heard from others, typical New Orleans house. I've had roof issues. I've had old electrical that needs replacing. I have galvanized piping that needs to be replaced. My bathrooms and kitchens haven't been updated in probably 25 to 30 years and all need replacing. There is multiple layers of paint that have that are peeling on all of the woodwork. Unfortunately, the previous owner painted with latex-based paint over oil-based paint, and that is something that I'm currently dealing with. I'm also, while I agree that both the assessors did a good job at looking at the neighborhood, I'm not sure that they took some of the more like properties in mind when looking. And a specific example would be 2217 Jenna Street, which sold within the last 2 years. I believe I can give you that sale date, 7/11/23 for $651,000. Which is roughly $38,000 to $40,000 more than the price of my home. And for the 2024 tax assessment year, they valued it at $514,000. This house has also been renovated since the purchase. And I know all this because the house abuts my yard. So I was able to see not just the sale, but also the renovations that they put through. And that is an excellent house because it has had a top to bottom renovation. So I think that should be included in the comparative market analysis. While also looking at my house, I'm not sure that anyone took into account the house or houses that are next to mine. And the direct neighbor on my side has a house that has not been touched since Katrina. Not only has it not been touched, but the owner of that house has no power, has no water, and uses it as not just a storage facility, but as essentially, for lack of a better word, his trash dump. He likes to collect things from other trash, and he has now loaded up the driveway that is 3 feet from my house with probably close to 2 tons of trash. I am currently fighting that with the city to hope to get that cleaned up. So if I were to sell today, I can't imagine that anyone in their right mind would look at that house and decide that they would want to pay $620,000+ for it. When I purchased that house, it was not in as bad condition, and he had temporary electrical up because he had intentions of renovating, which have now gone away. I would add that there was one other property that I wanted to discuss, which is 2300 General Pershing, which was in one of the market analyses. And their valuation for a house that is just 600 square feet smaller than mine, but is rated as excellent condition as well, for the 2024 certified total value is $501,000. So for all of these reasons, I believe that my property is currently overvalued by both the assessor for Orleans Parish as well as the Tax Commission's assessor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will now hear from the Orleans Parish Assessor.
Gregory Miller, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Good morning. Our original value was $615,200. The board review upheld that value. Our independent appraisal rendered a value of $615,500, which was very close and supported the original value. The LTC appraiser's value was $630,000, which also supported the value. The comparables used in both appraisals were in very close proximity and appeared to be a good representation for value in the area. And the only, the one sale that the taxpayer referred to at 2217 Jen, I believe, sold 7/11/23, which was after the lien date. So that's possibly why the assessed value was lower. It wasn't included in the property value for the quadrennial being a lien date of January of 23.
Thank you. At this time, we'll hear from the Tax Commission.
Mike Cater, LTC appraiser. I completed appraisal on the subject property at 4425 Loyola Street. Property was a 2-story double unit. I contacted the taxpayer, who indicated a value dispute based on other, properties in the area. He also stated that the property sold in 2021 and, did require some roof repairs after purchase. The appeal was for, improvements, the improved property only. So I developed a sales approach for improved properties, located best sales. The value of the sales approach came out to $630,000. I then developed an income approach using market data to arrive at a value of also $630,000. So my final value was $630,000, with land being at $126,000 and improvements being at $504,000.
Mr. James, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
did want to add, just for that property, 2217 Jenna, even for their 2025 uncertified, their total property value has raised to $598,900, which is still below mine for a home that is both larger, sold for more, and has had a full renovation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions by the commission?
Mr. Chair, just a question for the taxpayer. I guess it's 3 points. So I note the assessor has put your property in a very good condition. LTC is excellent condition. All that I see from an exhibit that you submitted was just an insurance certificate. So what are you saying your condition of the property is, and why is it different than those two?
Yeah, it's average at best. It's fair, and I apologize. I did not get the directions proper, so I printed out and had them ready. I did not get them in time for 30 days. So I had documentation and photos of the condition that shows outdated HVAC systems, some of the neighbor next to me that has all of that trash outside, the outdated electrical, the peeling paint, the ceiling issues. And for those reasons, as well as again, I don't have a renovated property like the others that are valued at less than mine. So the reasons why I'd come up with those numbers.
So have you provided that information for your 2025 and the open roll period?
I have not, no.
No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions by the commission? At this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the Orleans Parish assessment of $615,500 total. That's $126,000 for the land, $489,500 for the improvement.
Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
Next, we have the appeal of Deary Remo versus Assessor Errol G. Williams in the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23273-028. Mr. Remo, you can.
Morning, my name is Derek.
Swear you stand up. Raise your right hand. You swear to affirm testimony about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you. State your name to the mic.
My name is Derek Remo. I own a property at 3916 Johnny Jackson Boulevard. This property is incomplete. It's new construction that never been completed since Katrina. It has no walls, no plumbing, no HV, no nothing. It's just a shell of a house. Now, they valued this house at $411,000. I'm disputing that because basically it was originally appraised at 79,000. And when they came up with this price over during the years, they've been raising the price on it. I mean, basically it's just a bunch of metal standing there because it's a metal building. I'm just confused on why is it so high?
We're now here from the Orleans Parish. Mr. David?
Good morning. Once again, David Mejia, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. This property was valued as completed. It was valued at $414,500. When we drove the neighborhood, it appeared to be complete. Subsequent, it was noted that it was incomplete, and the board review reduced the value to $82,300. We did not contest that based off of the condition. Subsequent appraisals completed by the tax commission and our independent analysis all were north of that number, with the tax commission at 129,500 and our independent analysis at 120,000. With that being said, we're requesting the lower number be affirmed of the 82,300. The taxpayer was advised, but he seek to still come in and have his hearing. But we are requesting the lower valuation of the three of the subsequent independent analysis that were completed.
Thank you, Mr. Dave. We'll now hear from the Tax Commission. Mr. Paul.
Paul Bennett with the Louisiana Tax Commission. I personally appraised the property, excuse me, at 3916 Johnny Jackson Jr. Boulevard, with an undisputed land value of $3,200, improvement value of $126,300 for a total value of $129,500.
Is there any questions by the commission? At this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to accept the assessors value of $82,300, a total of $3,200 for land, improvement $79,100, total of $82,300.
Any discussion? Is there any objection? That motion will pass.
Thank you.
Next, we have the appeal of John F. Wall versus Assessor L.G. Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23221-77099.
Good morning. My name is Gail Wall. My husband John and I own the property, 232 Lake Marina Avenue, 15B, New Orleans, jointly. It's a condominium. Shall I proceed? Okay.
Go
sorry.
ahead, Ms. Gill.
First time. We purchased the property in 2011. It is a condominium building. While it's a 15-floor building, it actually doesn't have a 13th floor superstition as it is. It's actually 14B. We bought the building for $1,200,000 in 2011, and it has over time increased in value and also in taxes. However, last year, the City of New Orleans Assessor's Office served us with an assessment of $2,200,000. And we had an independent appraisal that we purchased through Dale Fleischman, who did our original appraisal when we purchased the property. And her number came back, which I gave to the appeal hearing in New Orleans. She came back with a number of $1,570,000. And again, she did perform the first appraisal for us in 2011. Subsequently, we are asking for and believe that the comps that were used for the City of New Orleans Assessor's Office recent appraisal, I believe it's dated January 1, 23, they came back from off the 2.2 to 2,174,000. And their comps that they were using for that appraisal was neighboring units that were sold significantly higher than our unit. And I would mention that our unit is, well, the building's 22 years old. Our unit, we have had no updates in the unit whatsoever. We did have some water damage in the master bedroom, bathroom, carpeting, and then the wood floors. So, you know, it's basically in good shape. But the two units that were comped against us, I believe that they're out of the window of appraisal for this assessment. And we prefer and think that the third appraisal on the City of New Orleans appraisal of 11C is more in line with the value of our unit. And then, actually, I believe that really is all I have to speak to.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gale. We will now hear from the Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Mr. David.
Good morning, once again, David Mejia, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. The subject is, it's a penthouse unit. It's only, one of 3 penthouse units. And the penthouses typically command a higher price per square foot. The reason for, the evaluation of going back was just to demonstrate some of the, penthouse sales. On our, independent analysis, if you direct you to page 7, we'll show you the close prices of the penthouses. Penthouse 1 sold twice, sold for $2 million and in July of 2020. It sold for $3.1 million and April of 2024, and penthouse 3 sold for $2.9 million and May of 2021. The tax commission, the appraisal completed by Ms. Fleischman also has a 21 sale in. So ironically, we don't understand if you were willing to use a 21 sale, why not use the 21 penthouse sale that was in that had sold. And reviewing that, I will grant that the property owner's unit does appear to be inferior to the sold units as far as condition goes. So I actually looked at this independently as I normally would, and I came up a little bit south of our current analysis. The value that I came up with was $33,000 for the land, $1,867,000 for the building, for a total of $1.9 million. Considering that the 2 most recent sales were at $2.9 million and $3.1 million for penthouses, we feel that that's a good value. And we do realize that it's probably hers is definitely inferior to the sold ones, but we're also valuing them at $1 million less than what the other ones sold at.
May
Go
I
ahead, Ms. Gale.
May I add, the penthouse 1 and penthouse 3 have both been heavily renovated, so they are no longer in original condition as built.
I acknowledge that. That's what I said. Yes.
Just before we move on, I want to make sure, so you are acknowledging it is a penthouse.
They call it a penthouse. I mean, if they had a 16th floor, we'd be valued as any other floor because there aren't any true particulars different. All units in that building were actually built pretty much custom. You can move walls, you can add this, you can take away that. So as far as the structural walls, floor and ceiling, it's really no different than the floors beneath us.
And to you, David, real quick, I want to make sure on your value. Could you do a breakout on that and double check your land? Make sure that you told us the right land amount, the total amount.
Thank you, Commissioner Frazier. I find my vision is changing as I get older, and like I said, so the land is actually 33,300, which would make the improvements at 1,866,700 for a total of 1,900,000.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brent. We'll now move on to the Tax Commission. Mr. Mark Gillespie.
Yes, sir. Mark Gillespie with the Tax Commission. I appraised the subject property utilizing sales nearby. I actually landed on one particular sale that was in the building. I made an adjustment for the floor location and arrived at a value of $1,410,600. I was provided with an appraisal by the assessor's office, and I did find that there were 2 sales that were outside the window, and they were 2020 and 2021. The inherent issue there is the interest rates at the time. The Federal Reserve began raising interest rates in March of 2022. And they roughly raised the interest rates 11 times. Ending, the final raise was in July of 2023, which significantly affects the value of the property. That's why I didn't go back and use sales prior to the effective date of appraisal. So I feel pretty solid about this appraisal. Again, 1,410,600 total value, land value 33,300, improvement value 1,376,700.
Thank you, Mr. Mark. Any discussion of the commissioners?
Mr. Commissioner, I have a question. Mr. Gillespie, so the sale at 232 Penthouse 3 that was sold, excuse me, in 2021, you're saying you didn't use that as a result of economic conditions such as interest rates?
Well, the reason we don't use sales, our assignment, and I think the law even states this, and the effective date of appraisal is 1/1 of 23. So we try to go 6 months either side of that, meaning June of 2022 to July of 2023. Sometimes we reach out and go maybe 1 year either side of that, but we don't go back to 2021, and especially not, well, or 2020. It's not applicable here. Those should be removed from that appraisal. I would say.
So if I may then draw you to your 232 11C, closing date of May of 23, that would be in the window, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And that's on the 11th floor in excellent condition. You valued the condition of the taxpayer's property is also excellent.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying there's only $100,000 difference in your, roughly $100,000 difference in your appraisal
Right,
between
and
the 11th and the top floor, which is deemed a penthouse?
well, what I've done, if you look down on my grid, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth row down, made a location adjustment for the floor level. The 15th floor being the ultimate. I made and of course, sale 1 is on the 11th floor, so I made a $20,000 adjustment for that to recognize the difference.
So only a $20,000 difference between the 11th and the penthouse.
Yes, sir. I was fairly conservative there.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you want to add, Mr. David?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's not a law. Appraisal practice allows time adjustments if needed, market adjustments if needed. When we perform these quadrennials, we actually use sales dating from 2021, 22 to prepare these sales. The taxpayers' own provided appraisal use a 21 sale. So it's well accepted practice, a preferred practice to use properties that are similar than a property that's adjacent to an inferior unit would be the preferred practice. But I'm fairly certain it's not a law that you have to stay within 6 months of either side.
If I may add to that, please, in their appraisal, if they were to use these sales, they should have made a market condition adjustment, a significant adjustment. So if you were to use those sales, I think that's certainly warranted. Thank you.
One more, I'll just rebut that. If we're making a market adjustment, the most recent sale was for over $3 million. So the market adjustment would probably be not benefit the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. David. Any other questions by the commission? At this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the assessor's total value of 1.9 million. And I'm getting back to that allocation. That's 33,300 for land. Improvements at 1,866,700.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Any discussion? Hearing none, that item will pass.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll take up the appeal of Zeno A. Yates versus Assessor L. G. Williams in the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23221-76056.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
I appreciate this time. This property is our personal residence, 431 Broadway Street, New Orleans. We had some concerns about the Orleans Parish appraisal, so we had an independent appraisal done. Our increase for between 2023 and 2024 was about 45%, which we thought was high. And so we had an appraisal done, which independent appraisal, which came in at $1,040,000. I think that let me see if I have the Orleans Parish appraisal, but it was $1,003,000, I think, is what the total was. One of our concerns was our particular property has not been renovated, and in our block, our block in New Orleans, we had the highest per square foot value applied to our house of over all the other houses in the block, with the exception of maybe one. Our per square foot cost was like $227 a foot, and the others were all lower than that. And all the other houses have been renovated, redone, new kitchens, everything. Our house has not been redone like that. And it's, we have an old kitchen. The house was built in 54. And it's the same kitchen that was there then. And our central air conditioning system is 45 years old. It's a commercial system that's been in there and needs to be replaced. And we have not had upgrades to our property as the other houses have. And that's, looking at a house from the outside is one thing, but it's not, they're not all the same. And as I said, all the houses in our block have been redone, and new kitchens, new additions, and so on. And, I guess our feeling is just because our house is situated in a block with other renovated houses does not mean that ours is the same. We just are asking, one of the things is the building value went up by around 200,000 or more between 2023 and 2024. We just don't think that's a fair increase based on the condition of the property. And we ask that this commission consider our appraisal value at $1,040,000 versus the appraisal value that the Orleans Parish came up with and your independent appraiser came up with.
Thank you, sir. We will now hear from the Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Mr. Gregory.
Morning, Gregory Miller, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Our original value was $1,277,200. Our independent appraisal, we did have a square footage error based on the appraisal presented by the taxpayer. This property is at 431 Broadway Street in the Upper Audubon assessment area. Their appraisal used 3 comparable sales that were over a mile away, and 2 of them were in the Ursuline assessment area, 1 in the Uptown Center assessment area, which we felt did not deem them to be the best comparable sales available. The LTC appraiser, which had the correct square footage in his appraisal, used 3 comparable sales which were within a block of either direction of the subject property, which their appraisal value was $1,352,000, which supported our value and actually over supported the value. And it appeared those were the best comparable sales that were available for comparison at the time of the appraisal.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. We will now hear from the Tax Commission. Ms. Palmer.
Good morning. morning. I appraised the property at 1,352,000 with a disputed land value of 492,000 and an improvement value of 860,000.
Could I make another comment?
Go ahead, sir.
The comparables that were submitted by the Louisiana Tax Commission, I'm familiar with those houses. Comparable sale one is a completely renovated house with a pool in the back and, tripped out with everything. And comparable number two down the street is a completely renovated house with a huge camelback addition on the back. And it's all brand new. And, so all we're saying is that our house is not brand new. And it's got some older parts to it. It's a nice looking house in a nice street, but it's not completely updated and renovated and with the newest of everything. So we just asked the board, this commission to consider those facts, that it's not, these comparables here that were submitted by the commission are close by. We agree with that, but I know the houses, they're not, you go in that house and you go in our house, it's a different situation. So we just asked that the commission consider that.
Thank
Do
you,
you have
sir.
anything you want to add, Cynthia?
Just wanted to say, for instance,
Can you come and speak into the mic? Thank you, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, for instance, our kitchen, the cabinets are the original cabinets that were installed in the house when the house was built. We have Formica countertops. We have bathrooms that have not been renovated. The roof over the side area of the house is original to the house. We have replaced the main roof, but that needs to be replaced. I mean, I think our house has been maintained, but I think what my husband's trying to say is it has not been updated the way all the houses around us have been updated. So we're just asking for consideration of that you review and consider the appraisal that we had done based on the finishes of the inside of the house. We have maintained the outside of the house, and it's a very attractive house, but I don't think that should necessarily dictate the appraisal versus every house around us being higher.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by the commission?
Sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to cut in on you there. Just a real quick question, because I didn't hear. So y'all's new value that y'all praying for is $1,1600,000.
No, and that's what I said. We did have a square footage error adjustment based on that appraisal. When corrected, we went back and we're asking for our original value, which was $1,277,200. And based on the LTC's appraisal, which they did make adjustments and fairly sizable adjustments for condition on two of the comparable sales. And as well, we're asking for a considerable amount less than the LTC appraisal value.
Mr. Gregory, can you give us a breakdown on the land and improvements so we can have that total?
See, I have that would be land value of 442,800, improvement value of 834,400.
So, Mr. Chair, just a question. So the appraisal that was submitted by your office has incorrect square footage.
That's correct.
So how was the adjustment made? What was the calculation to get back up to your 1.2? So both you and with your corrected square footage and the total of 1.2 million.
Well, based on the square footage difference, the comparable sales that were used in our independent appraisal were basically not felt to be the best comparables at that time. So we resorted back to our original valuation, which we felt to be more accurate.
Is the condition of the property as you judged it the same, which I believe
yes.
is in good condition?
Appraisal, I believe we had.
I make sure I'm looking at the right appraisal. Yes, good.
Good.
So,
'Cause- 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 'cause-
And LTC, I believe, has it as fair to average. No,
I have it as very good.
very good. So both, yeah, my apologies.
No, it's okay.
So good to very good, but no one did an interior. Ms. Palmer, you weren't able to do an interior, were you?
I was not. They were out of town the day that I was there. I based my condition on the appraisal that was submitted to the Board of Review and the pictures and that. It looked to be moderately updated, not a complete interior update as the taxpayer stated. So definitely not an excellent condition property. I felt very good was pretty adequate.
Yeah, can I say one thing?
Go ahead, Mr. Zeno.
Our appraisal did go through the inside, thoroughly through the inside of the house. And the lady that was just speaking contacted us at the kind of 11th hour, and we weren't able to accommodate her to get inside. We were out of town. So she did not go inside the building, but the appraiser that we used did go throughout the building.
Is there any other discussion by the commissioner? At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I'm gonna make a motion for the taxpayers value of $1,040,000. That's the land value of $442,800, and improvement value of $597,200. I'm basing this just off information that was provided to us and that we can actually see and review.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion will pass.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the help.
Next, we have the appeal of Jed N. Haas versus Assessor L.G. Williams in the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23221-71050.
Good morning, Jed Haas, 325 South Scott Street. I'm the homeowner.
Can you speak into the mic just a little bit, sir, so we can hear you? Thank you.
Sorry, is that okay? Okay. Jed Haas, 325 South Scott Street in New Orleans, and I'm the homeowner. The previous year assessment was 177. The Orleans Parish Assessor says it's gone up over 100% to 405 now. Right before the hearing, Mr. Alvarez from the assessor's office offered a settlement of 354, which is still a 100% increase. Now, I do understand property values change all the time, but they don't go up by 100% in 1 year. So the bottom line, I'm asking that go back to the previous value, if not lower, because in the interim, I've discovered some very serious termite damage. So I'm dealing with a lot of very serious repairs as well. I'd like to refer you to the appeal letter that I sent you dated from August 30th, which summarizes all that. Did the commissioners receive all that? Also, the original appeal from November 8th of 2023, where I have 50 pages of photographs showing the condition of the property, a lot of damage, a lot of unrepaired damage dating back to Hurricane Katrina. And in the discussion today on some of these properties that we've heard, I see a lot of reference to comparable sales. And the Mr. Lowry from the Tax Commission made some comparison to 3 different properties. And if you look at the online listings for those, and I provided that as an exhibit as well, showing the photographs, those are gorgeous houses, completely renovated from top to bottom. One of them was new construction. And what I'm asking you to consider is how much would it actually cost to bring my house up to that kind of condition? And I provided some estimates for you in the documents I referred to, the exhibits. basically I'm saying is between 230 and 400,000 or so to get up to that kind of level. I don't have central air and heat. I don't have any new kitchen, no new bathroom. My kitchen is 60 years old. So to get up to that level and get to that level that they're talking about is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm asking that we go back to the previous value, if not a little bit lower, because of that.
Thank you, sir. We will now hear from the Orleans Parish Assessor, Mr. David.
Good morning again, David Mejia, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. The initial value of this property was $455,600. The Board of Review reduced the value to $405,600. Mr. Lowry appraised the value at $390,000. We submitted a letter just indicating that we agree with the value of $390. As is my normal practice, I reviewed this and I felt that the $390 by Mr. Lowry was actually on the north side. And I like to be considered a fair person. So I ran my own numbers, and the value that I came up with was $354, which Mr. Russell had offered earlier prior to the hearings. That was based off of some photographs that we saw, and the property does have some deferred maintenance that's bigger than we initially thought. And that's why I'm recommending a lower value than the tax commission and the board of review value. That breakdown would be $308,400 on the land, $456,600 on the $308,400 on the building, $45,600 on the land, for a total of $354,000. That's over $100,000 difference from the initial analysis of the $455,600 that we had it coded as average, and it's definitely it tinkers on closer to fair than average.
Could I respond to that, please?
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'd like to say that the condition is poor. And again, the Orleans Parish Assessor has not offered any rationale for how we're going from 177 to 354, which is 100% increase in 1 year. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'd ask that you go to the 177 they had the previous year, if not lower.
I have a
can
question
answer
for
Commissioner Guidry, if you'd like.
Go ahead, Mr. David.
So the quadrennial it's not a 1 year increase. It takes 4 years for those increases to take place. So the last valuation is 1/1/19. So the increase takes place over the course of 4 years. The taxpayer may feel like it changed from year to year, but it was over the course of 4 years. And during those 4 years, Orleans Parish had a big increase in valuations throughout the market. But with that being said, the value of the property, it's not worth $455, it's not worth $390. And I will acknowledge that based off the documentation that I saw, it should be a little bit south of that. And I could very well come in here and state I just agree with the $390, but I'm trying to show some character here, I guess, and show that I'm being fair. I couldn't, with good faith, say that I thought $390 was a number.
Okay.
Could I
Let's
respond
go
that?
to the tax commission. We need to get Mr. Lowry. We're going to forget about you, Mr. Lowry. Go ahead.
Okay. Cody Lowry, Louisiana Tax Commission. I appraised the property at 325 South Scott Street. Using the market analysis, I came to a value of $390 with the land value of $45,600 and an improvement value at $344,400. That's doing that. I put the property at fair average condition. The argument could be made that it could be a lower condition. I have a analysis of what I would put the value at a couple of different condition ratings, but as of my report, I came in at $390.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lowry.
Could I respond to Mr.
Go ahead,
Lowry?
sir. Yes.
Yes. I heard from Mr. Lowry just the day before he was coming to review the property. Unfortunately, I was going out of town that following day. If I had been there, I would have brought him inside to show him more of the condition, to support what he just said, that it probably could have gone to a lower condition and lower value, and I could have showed him some pretty extensive damage, which you see documented in the photographs. There's more than that, actually. I just showed you the, the most severe stuff.
Okay, is there any other questions by the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Lowry. Mr. Lowry, I'm trying to call on past experience. When there is an adjustment for condition, there's a certain percentage, I believe, of the sale price that comes off. If I recall correctly, that would be about 10%. Can you confirm that?
Yes, sir.
So if it was poor, you'd take another 10% off of the comps theoretically?
Yes, sir. I have it currently at fair average, so I would take another 15% off.
Thank you.
Is there any more questions? At this time, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the assessor's proposed value of $354,000. That's land at $45,600, improvements at $308,400. I had the LTC average of all comps at about $384,000, and taking another 15% discount, I think it's in line with what the assessor is proposing, taking it down to a poor condition theoretically as a taxpayer represents.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
Next, we'll take up the appeal of Green Fee LLC versus Assessor L.G. Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23221-74084. No taxpayers are present.
Okay, we will hear from the Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Mr. David?
Yes. Good morning once again. David Mejia, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Just to confirm, this is 536 Jackson Avenue. Is that, that's correct? Okay. The original valuation of this property was $517,100. The Board of Review reduced it to $497,100. All subsequent values were fairly tight, with the Tax Commission independent value at $489 and the Assessor's Office independent valuation at $500. These values are fairly tight. We had no problem with the lower number, the $489. I don't think we got any response from the taxpayer. But yeah, these numbers are all fairly tight across the board. So we could live with any of the three. They're not really material differences here.
Thank you, Mr. David. Tax Commission, Ms. Nicole?
Good morning, everyone. Nicole Singley, appraiser on behalf of Louisiana Tax Commission. I did personally complete an exterior site visit of the subject at 536-38 Jackson Avenue. It was at that time verified as a double duplex. From the exterior view, the subject appeared to be in overall average condition. The appellant did advise me that the interior of the subject was not in need of any type of major repairs, but he noted that the exterior was in need of some work. You know, he mentioned a new roof and some things like that, as well as, you know, he had only painted the front facade of the property. So average condition, I felt good about that because that does, you know, take into consideration improvements that feature deferred maintenance and physical deterioration, as well as cosmetic. So with that being said, both the sales comparison approach and the income approach to value were developed with equal weight distributed, arriving at an estimated fair market value of $489,000.
Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Any questions by the commission? At this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to accept the assessor agreeing with the LTC appraisal of $189,000 which $184,800 land, $304,200 improvements, total of $489,000.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
All right, next we'll take up the appeal of Clifford Thomas Harlan versus Assessor L.G. Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23-221-76182.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, Mr. David, we will hear from the Orleans Parish Assessor's Office.
Yes, good morning again. David Mahir, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Just to confirm, this is 6036 Perrier Street? Okay. This is a unique, little condominium. There's some litigation that's really causing some problems in this complex. In our research, we actually found that there's been some issues with, properties staying on the markets due to the ongoing litigation in this. The commission ruled on a prior, building of this one at 295, I believe. This one is actually listed for 295 and it has not sold. With that being said, I'm going to make a recommendation of 280,000 due to the current listing, which has been on the market for a substantial period of time, and the ongoing litigation, which appears to be affecting the marketability of this property. That value is 66,800 on the land and 213,200 on the building.
If I may, put something on a record. In condo complexes, in the city, in really most places, because it's a complex, anytime there's some litigation against the association, many of the mortgage holders, mortgage owners will not finance sales. Therefore, you'll see a long-term listing, and we have to sort of take that into consideration to a certain degree. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean that the unit is not worth what it's worth, but the reality is, because of those litigations, unless it's a cash sale, they won't go through. And that's been our experience in the city of New Orleans. When I was the assessor of the first municipal district, I had most of the condo complexes in the city of New Orleans because of downtown. And we have a lot of market analysis based on that. So I wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, sir. We will now hear from the Tax Commission. Mr. Joshua Laverne.
Good morning, Joshua Laverne, Louisiana Tax Commission. I really have no objection to David's figure. There was an issue with square footage. I went with a different square footage because it was the most consistent across the board. So that's my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Josh. Any questions by the commission? At this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to accept the assessor's valuation, 280,000 on the condo, which is $66,800 of land, $213,200 a building, total 280,000.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
Next, we'll take up the appeal of Assessor L.G. Williams versus Coleman B. Williams and Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23-221-76219. And that's 2297 Audubon.
Ready? Okay, good morning. Once again, David Mejia, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. This property is 297 Audubon. It's a raised basement property. It was valued at $506,900. The Board of Review lowered it to $210,100, and there was no metric or no indicator of how they derived at that, and subsequently we appealed it. All subsequent appeals are significantly higher than our $506,900, with the tax commission at $535 and our independent analysis at $536. The raised basement has been confirmed to be finished. It's listed for lease. It's all been confirmed. We've spoken with the listing agent. We're comfortable with the original value of 506,900. That we feel that that's just a better indicator, being that all subsequent values were higher. So we're requesting our original value, which would be 124,800 on the land, 382,100 on the building, for a total of 506,900.
All right. We'll now hear from the Tax Commission, Mr. Joshua Laverne.
Good morning, Joshua Laverne, LTC appraiser once again. I inspected the property at 297 Audubon Boulevard using the sales comparison approach. The approach produced a value of $535,000, $124,800 to the land, and $410,200 to the improvement.
Thank you. Any discussion with commissioners? At this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the Orleans Parish assessment of $506,900. That's $124,800 for the land and $382,100 for the improvement.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
All right, our final Orleans Parish appeal will be the appeal of Matthew B. Plaisance versus Assessor Errol G. Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23221777043.
Ready for me? Okay. David Mejia once again. This is a property at 1640 South Carrollton Avenue. Our initial analysis landed the value at 675. Subsequent values by the tax commissioner was 655, and our independent value came in at 811. And in defense of our independent number, I think that our 675 is actually low from the analysis I completed, but it's hard to come in here and argue for against ourselves. So with that being said, it's not a big material difference between the value completed by the tax commission appraiser of 655, and we were willing to settle at that value if needed, although I do feel 811 is probably well supported, but like I said, we're not going to come in here and try to argue against ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. David. We'll now hear from the Tax Commission, Mr. Mark Gillespie.
Yes, sir. Mark Gillespie with the Tax Commission. I appraised the subject property using comparable sales within reasonable proximity of the subject, determined the overall market value to be $655,000. I did notice that the assessor was at $30 a square foot on the land, which is certainly within the range of the sales that I used to determine the market value of the land. So I'm certainly not opposed to that. So that would give me a total of $655,000 for the whole property, $225,000 for the land, and $430,000 for the improvement.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion by the commissioners? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the assessor's total of $675,000, $225,000 for land, $450,000 for improvements.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass.
Okay, our final appeal of the day is the appeal of Comstock Oil versus Assessor Christopher Tidwell and the Sabine Parish Board of Review, docket number 23220-85001.
You get sworn in early? I do call myself.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. We will now hear from the assessors office.
Good morning, Commissioner Brian Eddington on behalf of the Sabine Parish Assessor's Office. This is a taxpayer appeal, not ours.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Taxpayer.
On behalf of Comstock Oil and Gas, representing them.
Can you get just a little bit closer to the mic so that we can all have you on record? Thank you, sir.
And make sure and state your name.
Oh, perfect. My name is Colton Singh. I'm representing Comstock Oil and Gas in this appeal. The property that is in question right now is valued at $942,646.67. We're requesting that this be removed from the tax roll or at least valued at $0. To describe this system or the property of this assessment is the Union Spring system, which thank you. It's a system of equipment that is connected to 12 of Comstock's wells in Sabine Parish. And it's going to provide compression to those, to the product that is coming out of those wells. And it's going to help it reach that custody transfer point. If we look at Section 901B 1 and 2 of the Chapter 9 Rules and Regulations, these are the guidelines for assessment that are provided to taxpayers. Section 901B2 states, for assessment purposes, the well shall also be construed to include surface equipment items more or less permanently attached to the well, which we just described it is, necessary for oil and gas and related hydrocarbons to be produced and reach the point of custody transfer, which we established that this is. So by the assessment guidelines outlined right there, the value of the equipment that is that the Union Spring system consists of is already being accounted for in those 12 wells assessments, and therefore it's being duplicated when we have a separate assessment just for that system. That's all.
We'll now hear from the assessor's office.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Tyson, I have a couple of questions. You keep referring to this as the Union Spring system. You say it provides compression. Can you tell me precisely what the piece of property that is in dispute is? It's a compressor station, is it not?
According to our client, it is a gathering system that gathers gas from various wells and delivers to the purchaser.
Okay, well, that's interesting because this is one of the things I've struggled with in this case. You say it according to my client. I mean, you know exactly what this piece of equipment is?
I have not personally seen this, but when we reach out to our client for information, we trust that the information that they give us is correct.
Okay, you do. Well, let's talk about this. What information did you provide to the assessor identifying this piece of equipment?
Prior to the appeal, there was only phone calls, but we did not provide the exact system components, I guess.
And as I understand it, your argument is that this mystery piece of equipment is part of the production train because it is located prior to the first sales meeting, correct?
Correct.
Do you have a copy of the rules and regulations in front of you?
I have certain sections. I would have to reshuffle to get them all, but yes.
We can do this another way. I'm going to hand you what was previously submitted as Assessor Exhibit 1, and that is a series of correspondence between Mr. Pat Crumpton with your office and Carl Chance, the Deputy Assessor in Sabine Parish. And if you look on page 2, there's a Friday, August 25th email at 9:34 a.m. where Mr. Crumpton references the regulation. You see, or the definition of production train. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Can you show me in that definition where it says that this compression station is part of the production train?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Can you show me in this definition where it states that this compression system is part of the production train?
It says simply identified, it is the tangible equipment from lowest active completion through the first sales meter. And I believe that that is why I believe that's why it should be included as production train.
Okay, now that's only part of the definition. Could you read the first sentence of that definition?
Production train, the production train includes all the leasehold equipment on site, including the oil and gas wells themselves, required for the production of oil and gas and related water assets, subject to ad valorem taxation.
Okay, specifically says assets required for the production of oil and gas, does it not?
Correct.
Could you also read the last sentence of that definition?
The production train can include inactive equipment, but not ancillary equipment, not directly related to the production of oil and gas wells being appraised.
Okay, if you read that in its entirety, I mean, this equipment is not directly related to the production of oil and gas, is it?
I believe without this equipment, they would not be able to produce at the level that they are and get that to their purchaser. It is required in the overall system to get their product to their purchaser.
Okay, that's not my question. I'm not talking about getting it to the purchaser. Is this compression station, again, you testified, you don't really know what it is it directly related to the production of oil and gas? Not delivery to the customer, but to the production.
No, I don't believe it is.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay.
Then I've got just a couple of quick questions. I think we pretty much have this covered. I'd like to call Mr. Carl Chance, Deputy Assessor from Sabina Parish. Mr. Chance, first, can you identify yourself and your current position?
I'm Carl Chance, Deputy Assessor for the Sabine Parish Assessor's Office.
And on late of the open books period, it looks like on August the 27th, you received an email from Mr. Pat Crumpton. Well, here, I'll read to you. It says, "Hi, Carl, just got done going through notices, have a couple of questions and comments. And one of those is referencing personal property ID 1759. And that's the property it says, this CDP is part of the production train equipment. Can you remove?" First, this is the first time you received any sort of information or request or notice that they believe that this particular piece of property was part of the production train, was it not?
That's correct.
And can you tell me what this piece of equipment is?
It's a large compressor station where they dry it and deliver it to their customer. It's miles away from some of the wells. It's not part of the production as we interpret the route.
Okay, now when you received this request, you looked at the regulations. In fact, they cited the regulations in their email. Did you read those regulations as they were provided to you?
Yes, I did.
And did you notice, again, well, I'll just go to the last sentence. The production train can include inactive equipment, but not ancillary equipment, not directly related to the production of oil and gas wells being appraised. So, simple question. Is this piece of equipment, this compressor station, directly related to the production of oil and gas wells being appraised?
Not that I see it, not as I see it.
Okay, I have no further questions. Please answer any questions the commissioners might have.
Any discussion by the commissioners?
I have a question. So I'm confused. Did you say that it is not part of the production chain?
Sorry?
You said it is part of the production chain. Okay, so the statement is it's not part of the production chain. Is the appeal here that this was not submitted timely? Or is the appeal whether it's production train or not production train by the taxpayer?
It would be whether it is production train or not production train.
So the answer almost becomes both.
So the taxpayer is saying it's not part of the production chain. This information
We're saying it is a part of the production
is
train.
part of the
and
production train and should not be taxed. The assessor is saying it is not part of the production chain.
Correct.
The timing of the submission of this has no bearing. It's just an argument of whether it is or is it not. So what is
Well,
the
no, disagree.
assessor's
It's one-
defense?
The assessor's position that this is not part of the production train. Again, they provided no information even showing the location of these assets. Everything the assessor knows was obtained after the deadline. So that's why I said it's kind of both. That I think they have a proof problem that they can't even, again, Mr. Mason couldn't even really identify what this equipment is. But even if you get past that, it's clearly not directly related to the production of the oil and gas wells. And therefore, again, once you get past the proof problem, they still lose because it doesn't meet the definition contained in the rules and regulations.
So this is for a 2023 assessment.
Correct.
So for the 2024 assessment, the submission of the lat forms, if I'm saying that correctly, has been provided to your office. And the information, I assume, but I'll ask the question, is identical as submitted originally with 2023, or has there been discussion as to this matter for 2024?
They did not submit a lat for 24, and they requested again, once again, that it be removed from the tax roll
So no change.
change for my office.
No further questions.
I have a question. So far as 22 and back, now I take it this isn't a new compressor station? And so this hasn't been brought up before, that this was an issue?
This was brought up because of the change in the way we assess oil and gas.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So just to clarify, there's change in the rules at a certain date in the definition of what's included or excluded from.
For 23, there was a change.
Is there any discussion by the commissioners? At this time, will we entertain a motion?
I guess I'd like to rely upon a council request. Again, I guess the confusion is, I thought that I understand the taxpayer's appeal. So I assume what the motion is relative to the taxpayer's appeal, not the assessor saying it came in subsequent to.
We'll have legal
Let
counsel.
let me try to maybe clarify. So in 2023, we adopted a DCF model. Before 2023, this was valued using a cost approach, as was everything else. The taxpayer's argument is that this asset is part of the production train, therefore it's already being valued under the DCF model, so it should not be double taxed. Assessor says they haven't proven this is part of the production train. So the only question before you is based on the submission from the taxpayer. Do you believe this asset is part of the production train and therefore has zero value because it's already being valued under the DCF, or you affirm the assessor's assessment? I think it's a very simple question.
Thank you.
So I guess the motion would be, hey, we affirm the assessors or we don't, not a certain value needs to be in the motion or nothing like that.
I mean, I would put the value, if you agree with the taxpayer's argument, I would move to set the value at zero on the basis that you are concluding that this is part of the production train and is already being assessed under the DCF. But yeah, I would say it's very binary. Your choices are uphold the assessment by the assessor. I don't think there's any question that he used the proper tables and economic life and yada, yada, yada. The only question is whether or not this asset is part of the production train as defined in Chapter 9.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that this not, for this 2023 year, this not be included as part of the production chain. I've just heard testimony from one party against the other without an expert in the field to provide any further evidence. So I'm going to have to take it as is.
So the motion would be to affirm the assessment for the 2023 value based on the evidence and testimony presented in this particular appeal.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, that motion will pass.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioners.
you, John.
Thank you.